Hey everybody, welcome back to Chortle Cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and with me as always, Stream King, the Far Cry guy, the king of thieves, and the man who cried devil, Steven. What's up?
The man who cried devil. Did I?
I did this last time. It's a great nickname. Just move on. You know what I mean?
Can we confirm that I cried devil? Because it was my impression that I may cry devil.
All right, I'll change it to the man that may cry devil.
There you go. That's better.
That's better. Anyway, well, this is Chortle Cast, the official podcast of Chortle Games, where we talk about video games, movies, TV shows, anime, whatever the heck we want to talk about. And we've got a pretty good show for you this week. Light news week. However, Steven is hyped up on the Division 2 Episode 3 rumors and I guess some official announcements as well. So we're going to hear...
None of this, just a quick correction, none of this is rumors. Everything I'm going to be saying, unless if I say, like, this is my speculation, this is all confirmed. So, news. This is news. Not
that is going to be our news. We're going to hear Steven talk all about.
Jake gave me the whole news section to talk about Division 2. Deal with it.
Deal with it. But first, we have to roll back the tape to last week. I believe it was last week. A few podcasts ago, maybe. Where I discussed in our catch-up time that I had been playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX, Ultrasound, Deluxe, Plus... Origins, Horizons, Odyssey 2.0. And
Remastered.
I hated it. I really hated it. I'm a big Pokemon guy. I love Pokemon. Couldn't save it for me. The gameplay was just incredibly boring in my opinion, and I did not enjoy it. Steven had not played it at the time of last podcast, but since then, Steven, you've played it, and you've liked it?
I enjoyed it, yeah.
So tell me what you thought of that little demo.
So I think we decided to talk about this because it's like super bizarre that you, the Pokemon guy, who, like, with every bit of news that came out about, like, Sword and Shield, that people were like, I don't know about this anymore. You were just like, I don't care. It's Pokemon. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to play it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make my Eevee team, and I'm going to love it, and I'm going to live there. Like, that's basically the kind of person you are.
And in Mystery Dungeon, I can be an Eevee. So, I mean...
You can literally be an Eevee that you can name.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like... I hear that, and you don't like it. It's like, okay, that's weird. It must be a terrible game. And then you got me who, I mean, I know Pokemon. I've played Pokemon in the past, but I stopped with Gold and Silver because to me that was like the best Pokemon game. I played Y, I think, and I thought it was fine, but still it didn't hold a candle. And so, like, for me, Pokemon is something that I did and that I occasionally revisit, but it's not something that I actively am like, yes, I'm a Pokemon person.
Right.
But I liked it. I enjoyed the Mystery Dungeon DX Origins Rises 3 Remastered.
I forgot it's a remaster, yeah. Or a remake, probably is more likely, but...
So I liked Mystery Dungeon. And when I say liked, I say to the point where it's just like, if I got that game on sale for pretty cheap, like if it went on sale for like under $15, I might get it, maybe.
But you're not pre-ordering it.
I'm not pre-ordering it. I'm not buying it at 60. Like if I find it on a deal for a deal, it'd be like, okay, yeah, cool. Because to me, the experience seemed like a really good, chill, laid back, cute experience.
Yeah.
So like something that's enjoyable that won't challenge your brain too much.
It definitely won't.
So to add context, basically, you get to pick what Pokemon you are. It's in a world where you were a human that you got turned into a Pokemon, and it's a Pokemon society. Which, when I saw the Pokemon society, I was like, okay, surely Jake didn't get to the Pokemon town, because if he had gotten to the Pokemon town, he would have been like, oh my gosh, inject this game into my veins. But you did.
Like I said, that's the only redeeming things of it. but I hate the gameplay so much that I don't care to find out any more about the world.
That's so interesting. Mm-hmm. So I, what Pokemon do you think that I had, and what do you think was my partner?
Oh gosh,
you are not gonna guess.
I'm trying to think of who all was there. Did you pick Totodile?
No, but interesting that you would jump to Totodile. Why would you jump to Totodile?
Honestly, he's the first one that I remembered other than like Eevee and Pikachu, which I just tried to combine into Evichu, which...
It was the starters of the first 3 generations. Pikachu, Eevee, the pink cat for some reason, and a few others. Cubone for some reason.
Hey, don't hate on Cubone.
Oh, I love Cubone. I just didn't think he was popular enough to warrant being in this game as a
Did you pick
main
Mudkip?
Character. No.
All right, I got nothing.
Cyndaquil.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because when I played Silver back in the day, Cyndaquil was my starter. I love Cyndaquil.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cyndaquil's
when he becomes, I think, Typhlosion is his final form.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. He's amazing. And he's adorable. Cyndaquil's just so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So I played Cyndaquil, named him Steven. Then I got Chikorita, named it Anna.
I named myself Eevee, or I named my Eevee Jake, and I named my Pikachu Lialson. So there you go.
That's why. That's why I did it. Okay. I was following your footsteps. So you're a human that's been turned into a Pokemon. You're like, why am I a Pokemon? I don't understand. And this Chikorita comes up to you, and she's like, hey, we should totally rescue Pokemon. And you're just like, all right.
Okay.
I'm a Pokemon, but I should be a human. Okay. Yeah, let's rescue Pokemon. And so the game basically takes you through these dungeons that it's, I don't know it's grid-based, where individual squares. Each time you move, whether it's moving or taking an action, everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like any enemies on the map can attack you in between your moves.
Yes, and so your partner Pokemon is following you, and they do moves on their own. Chikorita, let me tell you.
You know what it reminds me of. Now that we're talking about it, Cadence of Hyrule.
I was gonna say Cadence of Hyrule, yeah, because
I didn't like that either. So that's part of that. Maybe that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I liked Cadence of Hyrule, not enough to beat it. It was fun, but so the Chikorita was my partner. She was such a kill thief. Like she would just razor leaf from halfway across the screen, and she kept leveling up. She lapped me on levels twice. Like, what the heck? But anyway, on the surface, it seems really simple. Mm-hmm. Like, you walk around, you've got energy, so, like, you need to eat food to be able to keep moving. You've got 4 moves, like in a standard Pokemon game, and they have a limit of uses. But you can link moves, which I thought was kind of interesting, where you can make it to where when you activate one move, you activate another move. So you can, like, dual attack. But it seems really simple. When you see an enemy, you can press A if you're pointed at them to use an ability if you're in range. For example, Ember is one of Cyndaquil's starting moves. It has a range of 2 spaces. Kind of like an archer in Fire Emblem. Mm-hmm. But apparently freaking Razor Leaf from Chikorita has like 6 range.
It can get anywhere.
Because if there's one thing I know, it's that leaves travel way faster, longer, and more accurately than a fireball.
They do.
Whatever.
It's scientific. Check your facts, Steven.
Okay. Anyway, so that's basically the gameplay loop, is that you go through these dungeons trying to rescue Pokemon, and you get out, you turn in... Like you turn in the quest, you get money and items, and then you can go put your money in the bank, buy more items, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. It's very much a game that it's one of those games that I can see if someone basically tells you like, hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. You're just like, okay, I've got 5 minutes. Let me pull out Mystery Dungeon and play a little bit. Like, it's one of those games that's just really easy to pick up and play.
Right.
And you can do quests in bulk, which I thought was nice, where when you go on a dungeon, every quest that you've got for that dungeon is active at the same time. So you can just keep going till you've got no more. Yeah, I thought that was good. You can eventually recruit more Pokemon. Unfortunately, the demo ends before you can do that. But in the original, apparently you could have up to 8 Pokemon active at a time. And this is when I thought it got interesting for me, because I noticed that you can change the tactics of your team. Mm-hmm. So you could basically have like 4 squads of 2 going through and just murking other Pokemon in dungeons. Just like, let's split up, gang. Let's go execute some Pokemon. And this is where it got, and that's kind of a lot of what this game was for me. Like, I see what they were going for, but I hadn't in the demo reached where I feel like the game shows its potential. Because the thought of, to me, because it's more of a strategic, tactical kind of approach to Pokemon, rather than the no strategy basic Pokemon game where it's literally just your only strategy is type advantage and maybe speed. To where, oh, I'm going up against a water. Well, here's my electric Pokemon. You lose. That's basically how it goes.
I mean, yeah.
And that's just because Pokemon hasn't evolved with its player base, but that's a whole nother thing. This game, I'm not saying that it's deep tactically, but it adds some layers.
Right. It gets better the further in you go.
Yeah, and also like the inclusion of positioning and movement adds a lot. So I had this thought of like, if you can have 8 in your party active at a time, and this is hypothetical because I didn't see any of this, but just based on what I read, if you can have 8 in your party active at a time, there could be rooms where it's literally an 8v8 Pokemon shootout, basically. And that sounds really cool. Like, I don't know. I'm just seeing like 8 like Evolution 3 Pokemon going up against 8 other Evolution 3 Pokemon with all these big moves, hyper beams being shot out like cannons. Like, you know, like it seems like it could be fun. But I didn't get there, unfortunately. But it is one of those games. I love party management and micromanaging in video games. And it seemed like one of those that did that in a way to where it was a relaxed approach to something like a Fire Emblem or a Valkyria Chronicles, which I'll talk about in a minute, where everything I do, I'm advancing these individual characters that I'm trying to basically see their full potential come to light.
Yeah.
See, and so it had that.
I almost wish it played more like a Fire Emblem type of deal, where you made an approach, you selected what attack you wanted to do on an enemy, and go from there.
Right, to where it was less of everyone moves at once and my team moves, then their team moves, something like that, yeah.
If it had been more of a typical strategy type style game, I think
see, that's actually what I always thought that it was until I played it.
Right.
So, interesting that that's not where they took it. But it's definitely not for everybody. And apparently, I can't just say if you like Pokemon, you'll love it because Jake hates it. But
I mean, it's one of those things that, like, I think if you like Pokemon, you should at least try the demo. And if you don't hate the gameplay, then maybe try it. But again, back to your point of like, I liked it, but I'm not going to pay a full price for it. I could maybe understand that as well, and I'm surprised they're putting it out. Well, I'm not surprised, but you know, I feel like it would have been a better like $30 game to start or something like that, just to be a smaller project. But that's up for
Pokemon
you guys to
is a fan base you can milk for all they're worth. They will buy it.
Oh, I know. That's why I said I'm not surprised. But
yeah.
Anyway, well, cool. Well, there you go. Just try the demo for yourself. See what you think. Because obviously we had very unexpected opinions on it.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
No, not at all. Okay, let's talk about Division 2. And by we, I mean Steven. Steven, what's
Are we skipping catch-up? Is
that all there, Division 2?
Is catch-up happening at the end, or are we doing catch-up?
Oh, yeah, we should do catch-up. I'll go first on catch-up. Catch-up is where we talk about what we've been playing or watching this week.
Yes.
I've been watching a lot of anime, Steven, a lot of anime, because My Hero Academia is now 2 weeks behind on the English dub, which is painful. I mean, painful for me. I've got to wait till next Saturday to watch whatever the two is. I'm 2 episodes behind, and it's a hard life, and I'm not happy about it. So I've been watching a lot of other anime. I'm still keeping up with No Gun's Life, which is the one with the man who has the gun for a head. Still don't know why he has a gun for a head.
It's something you probably never will find out.
Probably never will.
That's like the hook. And most weird anime have like a hook that's just like, it is what it is. Deal with it.
I mean, yeah. All Might, the voice of All Might, is in it. He plays a pretty big character in it, and it was funny because when he showed up at the time, I thought it was just going to be like a one-note character, like a one-time person, and I was just like, dang, I can't believe they they got this huge, at least to me, voice actor to be in this, and he's only a minor character. And then that episode ends, and it was very apparent that that was not going to be his only appearance. And I was like, oh, okay, it makes more sense now. But anyway, so that's still good. And then I've dived into some weirder animes. There's this new one that just started that is an isekai, I think is how you say it. And I want to get the name just right, because it's one of those like really long names that animes sometimes name themselves for no reason. It's called oh boy, it's called I gotta pull it up. I can't see the full name. I can see part of it. Okay, it's called Bo Fury, I think is like the title, but its full name is I Don't Want to Get Hurt, so I'll max out my defense. And it's this anime. It's an isekai. Is that how you say it? I think that's right. And what that means for anyone who just doesn't watch anime is it's a game it's a anime where most of it is the anime is the people in the anime exist in the human world, but they either get transported, get trapped, or can go to another world where the main story is happening. So in this case, it's a VR game that this girl starts to play, and she doesn't want to get hurt. So she maxes out her defense. And every time she levels up, she just keeps her defense at 100%. And so she can't get hurt at all. If someone hits her, it does no damage because her defense is completely maxed out. And I don't know how any game can work this way, but I'll leave that at the table. But anyway, she just keeps maxing out her defense and just basically she can't be killed. So she just starts doing all these crazy things that like shouldn't be able to be done. Like she's as like a level 8 player, she goes to this like really hard dungeon raid in the first episode against a poison dragon. But because it can't hurt her, it can't kill her. And so she maxes out her poison immunity, so she's immune to poison as well. And anyway, her weapons break because she's not ready for this dungeon, but she can't be killed. So she starts biting the dragon and eventually eats it and gets all of its like poison powers because she ate it. And anyway, it's very strange. It's very funny, but it's like starting to roll out new episodes. So there's like 4 episodes out right now. And again, the English dubs are 2 episodes behind, at least on Funimation. So
yeah.
I'm behind on that show as well. And then I also am still watching the Kinmono Michi, which is the wrestler one where he opens a pet shop and teaches people to love demon monsters or whatever. So that's what I'm watching. But anyway, that's just kind of been. We've just been watching a lot of weird anime, waiting for My Hero Academia to catch up. So here I am.
I apologize for the loud thud that the audience probably heard, and future Jake editing this probably heard when I was walking back to the desk.
Steven just gets up and then walks away in the middle of the podcast.
Because the light that I look at when I pretend to look at you, and I didn't set it up as like, hey, here's a good idea. Proxy Jake will be a light. Mm-hmm. No, it's just where the light stands. In your life. Yeah, you're too much, and I have to turn you down.
yeah, that's me. That's the Jake light.
That's what happened. I had to turn down Jake light. So that's why I got up twice. Gotcha. But I heard everything you said.
The only other thing I've really been doing is I've been trying to finish Children of Morta. I can talk about this. I started After Party for kind of my next solo stream playthrough. It's by the makers of Obsidian. I think that's right. No, Oxenfree.
That's definitely not Obsidian.
Yeah, no. Oxenfree is the other game they made. After Party is fun. It's really funny. Its humor is really clever. It's basically the premise is you play as these 2 college students named Milo and Lola, I think. Lola and Milo. And I always want to say Milo and Otis, or Lola and there's some other person that goes with Lola, and it's not Milo. Anyway, it's very clever. It's very funny. The controls are a bit annoying because in almost every scenario, you can really only move left and right, but you are in a 3D space, and sometimes by moving left, you go back because there's a defined path that you're following through a level. But again, you can only really go left or right, even though sometimes it's weird. So it confuses me sometimes because I'm trying to like walk around an obstacle. So I'll try to like go back and they'll stop. And I'm like, come on, get around this obstacle, when really I just need to keep saying go straight and they'll automatically move. So anyway, it's very funny. It runs surprisingly slow. Like there's certain almost cut scenes where you're in a boat traveling across the lavas of hell. Those are basically cutscenes. It's just kind of a looped animation with the occasional chat bubble popping up.
Yeah.
And it like stutters and has slow like frame rate drops and stuff. And I was just like, what? Like, we're playing on a PlayStation, which, whatever. But like, this is a game that can run on Switch. Why is it struggling? So anyway, that was kind of strange. But I also think it's going to be very short. We quit the first stream. We had played about 2.5 hours, maybe closer to 2. I found out it's only like a 5-hour game. So I may only have like one more live stream of it before we beat it. I think it was very much a game they intended you to play more than once, from what I can gather. But anyway, it's been very clever and very funny. I've laughed out loud a couple times while playing it. So anyway, it is definitely not for kids. There is a lot of cussing. There's a lot of weird topics discussed, but it is very funny and entertaining. So there you go. I had more to talk about and catch up than I thought. Steven, take it away. What have you've been playing Valkyria Chronicles? You mentioned that a second ago. Tell me about that.
Disclaimer real quick. I apologize again for how much of a mess I've been since Jake started talking. Because like when you're like, oh, I played After Party, I like brushed my finger on my nose and then I pulled away and saw that I was bleeding really badly.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was like, oh, okay. So I walked over to the other room to grab a napkin to wipe it down. And then I walked back over here, and the phone, which I'm hearing Jake through, flipped out of my hands, and the headphones came unplugged. And so Jake was just a loose cannon coming out of the speaker. So there's probably a part in there where you guys heard him coming through my phone from across the room. And I'm just like, oh, my nose, oh, my phone, like, oh, trying to salvage the broken pieces that is my life.
Wow.
So I've been playing Valkyria Chronicles.
I've
been playing a few things, actually, but I'll talk mainly about Valkyria Chronicles. It is basically World War II Fire Emblem. It plays like an anime, even more so than Fire Emblem, where there's just like a bunch of story, where like levels are separated into like basically chapters of a book, and there are like one or two playable portions in each chapter. The rest is cutscenes and dialogue stuff where you learn about your squad. And basically you are a tank company in the basically the Allied powers. I think we're the Allied powers. But it basically you have a bunch of different characters you can recruit. There are definite main characters to the point where like they are considered leaders. So if you bring them along, you get an extra move.
Oh, that's cool.
So basically it doesn't work where like every soldier moves every turn. It's you have a number of moves, and so you could move the same soldier like 4 times in one turn before he runs out of stamina, because each time you reuse a soldier, they have less movement. Because when you're moving around and when you're like when you're controlling a soldier, it's a third person game. And like you move them like an actual third person character, and then you could press like R1 to start aiming with their gun, and then you select where you want to shoot, and then it does them shooting their gun. It's a very interesting combination of turn-based and third person. And so you run a tank company. The main character's name is Claude, I believe. Claude and Miles are the 2 characters that run the tank.
I thought
and
you
then
said
there's
quad at first, like your quad muscle. But
yeah,
I'm glad you meant Claude.
Yeah.
Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, it's fine. And so there's this tank, which is it's not necessarily a class. It's more of just like what Claude is. He operates the tank, and you can get a transport basically that is also an armored vehicle that you can customize the parts of. But the classes are like Recon, which can move really far, and they do okay damage. They do pretty good damage to infantry, but not good damage to armored. Then there's Shock Trooper, which can move a decent amount, but they're mainly your main fighting force. Like they've got machine guns, they can take a hit pretty well. Then there's the Sniper, which self-explanatory, can't move too much, but can shoot across the map. Lancer, which uses like a polearm lance, but it's actually a rocket launcher. So that's your anti-armor unit. Engineer, which can resupply everyone of their ammo, and they can repair tanks. And artillery, which basically they get a mortar. And so in this game, you're learning about all these characters. They've got a lot of depth, but also you can recruit other characters to your squad that aren't main characters, but they have perks and quirks, as I think State of Decay, when it came out, coined that term, where they've got positives and negatives. For example, one of my recon guys, he loves the outdoors. So when we are not in a city, like when we're in an open field, he actually gets bonuses when we are fighting in the wilderness. But he also may have a negative that's like nervous around women. And so if he is next to a female soldier, his accuracy will go down. Stuff like that. So it's getting to know these characters. Some of them, like, their personalities and like their story beats, but a lot of them, like the characters that fill the gaps, you're mainly just learning about who they are, like what they do well, what they don't do well, and some of them even have specific quests. Like I don't remember the name of my main engineer, but he is a offshoot character to where like I just recruited him because I was like, you've got okay perks, so you're gonna be my engineer now. I actually got a quest for him, and this dude, he's hilarious. He loves tanks. That's like his thing. Like I got a quest with him specifically, so I actually got to learn a little bit about him, kind of like the side quests in Fire Emblem. But this dude, like every time he does something, because basically the way what I do with him is I have him ride the back of Claude's tank. And when I say ride the back, I mean he literally walks up to it and just stays there. And then every time Claude moves, I have him move to where Claude always has a repair ready to go.
Nice.
But this dude, whenever he does things, he's just like, I love tanks. Tanks are the best. So he's just really excited to be around tanks. But it's been really fun playing through it again because I didn't realize how many games there were on the Switch that I dropped in July, maybe June, when Fire Emblem and Ultimate Alliance were coming out. Because when those games came out, it was just like, I'm dropping everything and playing these games. And I forgot about a lot of those games. And Valkyria Chronicles 4 was one of them. This is Valkyria Chronicles 4, by the way, not the first one. So it's been really cool revisiting them. I honestly think that there is a demo for Valkyria Chronicles 4. I think you should try it out because it may scratch your Fire Emblem itch, at least until Ashen Wolves comes out.
Yeah, it was funny when you were talking about it. I was like, oh, man, I should go ahead and like get my Fire Emblem New Game Plus. Like I should just get it set up. I should go ahead and pick Golden Deer again and just kind of
Blue Lions.
You know,
just do it. Yeah. But you should download the demo for Valkyria Chronicles because, like, you get a pretty good gist of the game. Of like, obviously, it doesn't give you everything,
right?
But you get a good idea of like how to upgrade your soldiers, like the different variety of soldiers you'll get, stuff like that. I'm not gonna say it tells a better story than Fire Emblem, because I don't know if it does. But it definitely
it's
puts a lot of it's a lot of story. So like if you're into a like story and if you're just wanting to like get to know a lot of characters again and fight through war with these characters, then it's a great game to go to, I think. And I'm waiting for the story to pick up some. I'm only in like chapter 5. I didn't realize I wasn't that very far, and I've already fought in a battle that they were like, "Oh man, this is an impossible battle to win. It's going to end the war." And this was like chapter 4, and so it's like, ooh.
Oh wow, we're done that fast.
We're still going, guys. But yeah, in addition to Valkyria Chronicles, I guess I'll make this announcement here, even though it's been heavily implied. Main reason I'm going to say this is just because we're in February now. February is going to be really hectic for me. There's a lot of stuff going on with my family. Andrew from FFG, he's coming to visit. I might get him to join for a podcast. That might be fun.
Would it?
It might be, depending on what we talk about. Okay. I just had a thought that I'll have to talk to you about after the podcast.
Okay.
I don't think it'll work, but I just had a thought. But he's coming into town. Family's got some stuff going on. Also, I'm under contract for a house. Anna and I are getting a home, and we close this month.
Woohoo!
So we're excited. We're really excited. And especially like the last update I think I gave you guys officially was that house hunting was not going well. And we were pretty discouraged because we did enter contract for one before and it didn't work out because down here foundation is a really big deal because there's just a lot of bad soil. So we were discouraged, but right after that, it all worked out. As of recording this, it all worked out. Knock on table. But we close on the 20th. So I say this for you guys because I have no intention of this affecting how much I can do this month, but just know that if I call off something last minute or if I stream less than normal, that's why. Just keep that in mind. But I have no intention of that being the case. But that could happen. Lastly, I remembered what the other thing I was going to talk about in catch up was, and this will be really quick. Those of you who are on the Discord on Saturday night may have seen that I got to go see our local orchestra do a Star Wars night. They went from episode 1 through episode 8, unfortunately. But they did a lot of really good scores. They did Duel of the Fates.
That's awesome.
And like, they didn't have a choir, so like it wasn't the same, but they used like part of the brass section to do the choir parts.
Okay.
And so it was effective, but like there were parts in there like where the strings and everything are in unison doing like dun 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 dun. That part, it was just like, oh my gosh, I had so many chills. It was amazing.
That sounds
but
so cool.
they did. It was really neat. They did that one. They did. They of course did the title, the crawl. They did Across the Stars from episode 2, which is the best thing to come out of episode 2. But for those of you, I'm going to talk about John Williams' music very, very briefly. But if you haven't heard Across the Stars from Star Wars episode 2, it is one of the most beautiful pieces of music from Star Wars because it's Anakin and Padme's love theme. And something that John Williams does incredibly well is everything he does in the music that he makes, at least for Star Wars and of course through everything else, because he just understands storytelling through music.
He's great.
It heightens the story. You experience the emotion and the narrative a little bit in his music, and you find that in Across the Stars because it's all sweet and innocent and everything. But the further it gets into it, you hear like these like minor key coming in, and you get a little bit of Vader in there, and so it's just like forbidden love, and this love being what would eventually lead to his turn to the darkness. And so like, I recommend it. If you haven't studied Star Wars music, there's some very underappreciated, I say underappreciated, everyone appreciates him, but there are some that people don't often think about when they think of Star Wars, because they think of the crawl, the Force theme, and Imperial March. That's basically what you think when you think Star Wars. But there's some, especially from the prequels. Check it out. But they did Imperial March, of course. And then they did a Michael Giacchino song from Rogue One. They did the Hope Suite, I think is what it was called. And let me tell you, I'm not going to talk as much about Giacchino, but Giacchino's great. Like it was a great composition. So I legitimately am gonna have to go listen to it again because it was really good. So if you're looking for movie scoring, honestly, Michael Giacchino, good luck spelling it, is kind of like a new John Williams in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So
It's high praise.
yeah. But yeah, that was really cool. Cody and his fiance, who you guys may remember, they were there. I was looking for him around the room, and I was just like, "Where are you?" And he said, "On your left, Cap." And I looked to my left, and he was just looking at me, and it was just like, you got me." Nice. But last thing, right before intermission, they were moving some stuff around. The lights were low, and some people thought they were doing intermission. Freaking idiots! Like they missed this. And they brought out all this stuff, and they brought out a group of basically a jazz band is what they brought out from the orchestra. So they had a bass, they had a steel drum, they had a drummer. They even had the trumpet with the cover that goes wah. They did that whole thing. And the director even said, like, when the lights came back up, he was like, "You know what we're about to do." And everybody laughed. And then they did the Cantina Band song.
That's awesome.
we basically got to see live space jazz performed, and it was great. It was so fun. But yeah, it was really cool. I have mad respect and appreciation for music, especially music from composers like John Williams that understand the heart of a story so much that they can make you feel a story through nothing but songs. Yeah. I really appreciate that. But I've talked enough. I had a long catch up. Sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. I wish I had something to give you a break because now it's time to talk about Division 2, and that's really our only news from this week. I can
tell you what else I've been playing. Division 2. Oh, you had something?
Well, I was just going to say, just to give you a little breather, the only other piece of news that I had kind of like flagged, and I ended up with just like, we'll just not talk about it. I think I had mentioned briefly in another podcast that Netflix is doing a Witcher animated movie, or I think it's a movie. I don't think it's a show. And it's called The Nightmare of the Wolf. Obviously, I'm very excited about anything Witcher all the time. So I was very excited about this. But it has come out since that announcement that it's going to be about Vesemir, which for anyone who is not familiar with the Witcher franchise, Vesemir is Geralt's teacher and mentor. And if you've played the games, he's the older guy. A lot of people want him. A lot of people think we're going to see him in next season of the Netflix live action series. A lot of people want Mark Hamill to play him. I think that would be pretty dope. Yep. But anyway, the animated movie is going to be about Vesemir and his origin story, which I don't know much about because I haven't seen any of that in any books or anything. So I'm very excited to see what that's all about. But anyway, that's my little news. Steven, tell us about their Division 2.
Okay, so Division 2, I just claimed to be the most disappointing game of 2019.
Right.
But the past few weeks, they've been coming back to life a little bit.
Should we, sorry to interrupt you again, but should we have a most improved award at the end of
in today's
year?
industry? Yeah. Okay. That's becoming a trend, and it sucks.
I hate it.
Because, like, yes, it's good that these games are getting improved, but when you create, it's kind of like the participation medal. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you feel about the participation medal? Because if a kid is like playing a sport or doing a contest and all they want is a medal, and at the end of the game or contest, whatever, you give them one, then their mentality from there is at risk of being like, oh, so I get an award even when I don't try. Mm-hmm. So why try next time? And that's kind of what's happening in the gaming industry, especially with Ubisoft. Ubisoft, release now, fix later. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that they are fixing things because, like, Rainbow Six Siege, they brought that game back from the grave, and now it's a legitimate game in the competitive scene. Mm-hmm. We all know how Division 1 happened, but it sucks that we can't be excited about game releases anymore. Right. Because we just know that it's going to crash.
It's going to take some time.
Just to be fixed later. Yeah. So, Division 2, really strong early game. Levels 1 to 30 are great because it's about the story. You're not worried about builds or meta because everything's a reasonable challenge, but things aren't bullet sponges yet. But then when you get to level 30, which is where the real game begins because it's a games as service, so of course it is. Mm-hmm. That's when the trouble has started to show. And I'm going to explain briefly, and I've talked about this before, but just to be thorough in helping you guys understand why these new changes have the potential to be great, rather than just saying like, oh, they're doing this, and you having no idea what that means. But first, I guess I'll say that they are coming out with episode 3 this month. And in this episode, we are going back to New York. We're going to Coney Island.
Coney Island.
And what was his name? The scientist in Division 1 that Keener ends up, Vitaly Chernenkov, I think. He's a virologist that we hoped had a chance to help cure the dollar flu. Black Tusk has him, and they've taken him to Coney Island, and it seems like Aaron Keener, who is the basically the looming threat over the game and has been since the first game, he is working with Black Tusk. Kind of. The Thanos of the Division universe. He is he's kind of working with them, or it's teased that a rogue agent is working with them, and he is the rogue agent. Mm-hmm. So we may confront Keener, and that's a big deal. Any Division player that cares about the story at all has been waiting to see Keener, because he's always one step ahead of us, to the point where we've never actually seen him in person. The closest we came was when we watched an echo recording, which is like where where it creates like a past projection of previous events by compiling camera footage and recordings and stuff. He talked to us through one of those, like directly, because he knew we would find that, just so he could taunt us. It was actually really eerie and really well done, but we've never seen him in person. We've only been seeing his breadcrumbs, so we may finally confront him here, which would be really cool. They're adding a new specialization called the Firewall, which gets a flamethrower, various fire abilities, and they're basically a tank. They are going to be front lines, up close and personal, but they also are going to do things to buff team damage. Mm-hmm. So that'll be good. And you can tell that the Firewall was designed for these coming updates, which I'm going to start talking about.
I just want to comment on the Firewall. I was waiting when you said the name. I obviously knew fire was going to be involved, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be named Firewall because it's a play on words, and you were also going to be like a hacking, like drop in drones and like fire drones and fire tanks and stuff like that. Turrets, I mean, fire turrets. Or if it was going to be like, yeah, you're a tank, you can take a couple hits. So
it's the double meaning. He's basically
a wall,
firewall,
like a tank, and he has fire. I was hoping it would be a little more clever, like.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clever because it's like firewall, instead of one word being like a hacker, it's fire period wall period. Like you use a lot of fire, you are the wall.
He is
nothing
the wall
gets past
of
you.
Fire. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to throw in a couple comments from me, just so everybody knows I'm still here and alive, because it's Steven. Steven knows all about this.
Yeah. And I'm glad that I'm having this conversation with you, because I was going to do something where I did a voice chat over the Discord server where I talked to Stowe specifically about the changes coming, but now I can bounce this off of somebody who doesn't know what any of this means, so that I can explain it and then explain it some more. So basically, they have said sometime after episode 3 comes out sometime this month. I'm thinking probably February 21st.
What if they did it on the 14th? Wouldn't that be kind of funny?
That'd be a dick move.
What if they did it on the 14th? But it would be a happy birthday present to you, Steven.
It would be a happy birthday present, but it's going to be the 21st probably, because they said in February, no more details than that. So what they'll probably do is release it a week early for pass holders, and then release it on the last day of February for everyone else, just so they can say it came out in February. But they said that sometime after that, they are doing a complete gear overhaul, which has kind of been the problem with Division, because everything is, most things are loot-based. It's like Destiny, where you are what you equip. So in the past, you guys have heard me talk about what's wrong with the Division 2, being that builds are so complicated, and I love a good complicated loot build, but when I say complicated, I mean it's so hard to find the right piece for what you're going for, but it's also counterintuitive and at the same time way too encouraging of hybrid builds. The way it works, you've got 3 colors: red for gun damage, blue for survivability, and yellow for skills. So stats like weapon damage or crit chance, crit damage, stuff like that are red stats. Blue stats are health, armor, armor regen, stuff like that. And then yellow stats are skill health, skill cooldown, skill damage, all that kind of stuff. And you have what are called talents on gear, which are basically things that give you a buff so long as you meet the stat threshold. For example, there is a stat I really like on assault rifles. I think it's actually on most guns, called Vindictive. It makes it to where if you kill an enemy that has a status effect on them, you increase the critical chance of everyone around you by 20% for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that. So it's a indirect damage buff for the team. But the catch is you have to have 4 or less red stats on your loot rolls, which means if you're doing that, you have to make sure that none of the gear you have exceeds a total of 4 red, and so you're not going to be doing a lot of gun damage, so you're not going to be killing things a lot. So you're not going to be able to proc Vindictive a lot. So basically everything was locked behind these walls of, if I want to be able to do this, then I can't do this. And then eventually becoming, that was lessened over time, but then it became everyone could do everything pretty much, to where my stat numbers on my current build are like 787. So anything that's this or more, I can pretty much have equipped. So you have this new problem where people are running into, there's no team comp basically, because everyone has pretty good skills, everyone can take a hit, and everyone can deal damage. So the game's not interesting, is basically what's happening. And I don't know if this has been my opinion, and I feel like the voices of others have reflected this, but, you know, Stowe, if you're watching, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. But anyway, so now, moving forward, they've said they're going to rehaul all gear to where when this update drops, every piece of gear will be changed. Every single one. Exotics are going to look more so the same, but they're going to be changing the way gear works and build comps work, where now gear can only roll with one core stat. Core stats can either be weapon damage for red, total armor for blue, or skill tier for yellow. And if any of this is incorrect, it's because I'm remembering it wrong, but everything I'm saying here, at least from my impression, is confirmed because it's straight from their mouths. If it's incorrect, I'm just saying it wrong.
Right.
So this isn't rumored. This is coming. So those core stats can roll on your 6 pieces of armor: head, chest, holster, backpack, knee pads, and gloves. Those stats cannot be improved anywhere else. So now you have 6 places to improve either your weapon damage, armor, or skill tier. So what that means is you're no longer going to have these guys with 10 billion health that can also headshot most high tier enemies. Now you're going to have those guys who, if they want to find a balance between armor and weapon damage, their skills aren't going to be able to do anything. If you want somebody who, like Andrew, my brother, he's probably going to end up rolling 6 blue core stats to just be as beefy as possible, but he's not going to deal as much damage as most other people, and his skills won't be very useful. But he's going to be really hard to kill. So now what you're doing here is you're making it to where, from a base stat level, everyone is bringing something different to the table, to where there is no do-all person.
Right.
And if there is, they're a do-all person to a limited extent. And so skill tier, to explain what that is, you may have heard me complain about this before, that In Division 1, there was a stat called skill power. The higher it was, the higher the stats on your skills. Makes sense. But in Division 2, skill power was a threshold to equip mods on skills to improve their stats that way, and that sucks. Because it doesn't incentivize you much to have skill power. So now, skill tier basically means that for each skill tier you have, your skills go up in effectiveness to where damage, like let's say a turret, damage, duration, cooldown, all goes up by each threshold of tier. And you can still mod skills. So what they're effectively doing is that they're making it to where, like, if you want to be a 6 tier, like a skill tier 6 operator, you could totally run basically a sniper turret. And just for example, you could run a sniper turret, mount it somewhere, and basically with that thing, you'd be dealing, arguably, if you do it right, enough damage as a person who is a sniper running heavily into red. So they've opened up play styles to where if you want to be a full-on skill op, you can do that. But you won't have any armor, pretty much, and your guns will suck. But if you want to do that, that's your thing. You can. So in addition to that, they are making it to our talents, which previously could appear on nearly any piece of armor, making it to where anyone could just roll with anything. Talents are now only appearing on chest pieces and backpacks. So you can now only have 2 talents on your build, and those 2 talents, they're making talents a lot more effective. For example, Empathic Resolve, I think is the name of this skill that I saw that they showed at the State of the Game. It says every time you repair the armor of an ally, armor, as you remember, Jake, is basically your health bar.
Right.
Anytime that you repair an ally, you increase their damage by 20%.
Wow.
Across the board. Yeah. So right away, that talent, that's build defining. So talents are going to appear less on your build. They appear in 2 places now, but they make a huge difference.
Right.
Make it to where people have to specialize. And a lot of those solo players, Stowe, you may be one of these, are hear that and just think like, they're making it to where I can't play solo anymore. It's going to be harder to solo, but I would argue that Division was never meant to be a game where you should be able to make a build that does everything. It should never be that way, because you're supposed to run with a team. And so solo players, you will have builds out there for you, just like Division 1 did, but you'll just have to adapt. And that's what we do. We're Division agents. We adapt. That's literally our job. So in addition to all of this, for also talents don't have a threshold anymore. So Vindictive, like I mentioned earlier, stuff like that does not require minimum or maximum of red, yellow, or blue. They just are there, and they happen, which is great. Sets also are still in the game, and they are improving them to where now instead of 6 pieces, and this change is already in effect, where it's instead of 6 pieces for sets, it's 4 to get their bonus. And sets, of course, being the more of that set you have equipped, the more bonuses you get. So now what they've basically done is where they are making it possible where every single player in the game, and I talked to this about this with Miles when I was trying to get him interested in the game again. But I had this thought, and it was really interesting. Sets are supposed to be that thing that you run that set if you really like that play style. For example, in Division 1, I ran Reclaimers. When you guys, if you remember watching me play Division 1, Reclaimers made it to where I had that basically healing field that revived people as soon as they went down. It made it to where we didn't use ammo in that area, and we were immune to status effects, and we healed every second. The reason I was able to do that was because I ran So what they're doing now is sets are 4 bonuses instead of 6. And that, now that I think about it, that may have been how it always was, because they added classifieds, which added 6. So basically what that means is now, let's say you want to run a set and 2 build defining talents. You can run all 4 pieces for your set except for chest and backpack. And then for chest and backpack, run a high end with a talent that you like. So suddenly you've committed to a build that you, ability that a set offers that you really like through your set, but then you've amplified that more or something else through your talents. So basically I could run a really good healer if I have the right set and then use talents like Empathic Resolve. So they're basically making it to where everyone is encouraged to specialize. And I prefer that, because then you're basically bringing in a light class system rather than just everyone has guns that should deal a lot of damage, everyone has skills that should be able to do moderate things, and everyone can take a lot of hits. I don't like that. That's not interesting. So that's kind of the baseline summary of what's coming. If you've played Division, that'll make more sense to you. If not, that's probably just like, wow, Steven just talked a lot and used a lot of words. He said talents like 80 million times. I don't know what any of this means.
That's where I'm at. And every time you said talents, I was thinking of like money. Like, here's a talent for you, sir.
No. So, basically that's the gist. I can explain in more detail. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the Discord. We've got a Division 2 channel over there. We don't know when this is coming. We just know that this is coming after episode 3.
And 3 is in February.
3 is this month at some point. I think the 21st. So I think at the soonest we'll probably get this update, title update 7, I think is what it is. We will get that at earliest, I would say April, because that'll be like the start of year 2 for Division, since it came out March 15th. And it would be a great way to kick off the new state of the game. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. Trying to get everybody into it. If you would like to pick up Division 2, I'm going to be playing it more. I can help get you guys through to level 30 so you can hit this new content right away when it comes out. It's very cheap at GameStop and on Amazon. It was just $12 on the Ubisoft store, but that's not the case anymore. It goes on sale on PSN a good bit. Just, yeah, come on, join me. We need people for the clan.
We do. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Chortlecast. We do hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, there's a couple things you can do to help us out. Number one, if you're on YouTube, you're already at chortlegames.com. We'd love it if you'd like this video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment. We really appreciate that. You may have noticed if you came to watch on YouTube and you were like, I normally watch on Twitch, which I'd love to know who you are, because you'd be the only one.
Where have you been hiding?
Where have you been hiding? Why don't you comment? We have switched back to the podcast only airing on YouTube, and it will also be airing on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook, thank you for watching there. You can like this video, like our page, and share it around with your friends. We are nixing Twitch, basically until we can start scheduling stuff through Twitch. Which, if you're not following us on Twitch, that would be a huge help to get that process rolling. So go follow us there. It's Chortle_games on Twitch. But anyway, we've noticed over the last couple podcasts that there have been some sync issues. So I would be talking, it looked like an old Japanese movie where the voice lines weren't synced because it was a dub. Anyway.
Yep.
It was real bad. And so the issue was we were using Restream to stream a piece of video content, and for whatever reason it just sometimes is horribly out of sync. So, and there's just been a lot of other problems, like we've had the stream just cut off midway for different reasons, and it's just it became more of an issue than it needed to be. So the podcast is still going to be on Apple Podcasts, still going to be on YouTube. We're going to continue trying to put it on Facebook because we can schedule posts on Facebook. But until we can schedule posts on Twitch, you will not be seeing the podcast on Twitch. So just a little, I should have mentioned that at the beginning and housekeeping, but anyway, I did it here. You can also keep up with us in our Discord. We talked a lot about that. We talk about memes, do all those sorts of stuff. You can get that through the description of this video, podcast, or on Facebook. Or the easiest way to get to it is to go to chortlegames.com. That'll take you to our YouTube channel page. On the banner, there's a little Discord icon. Click that. You can join the Discord. Also, if you're watching live, one of our mods, Kaylin, will probably be posting some links all the way across. So feel free to do that. Use those and join us there. This is not the only thing we do. The podcast will now go back to 12 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you were watching us at night and that was hard for you, it's going to get a little easier again. But you can always watch us again at night later. But anyway, because we're going back to a posting schedule. Every Monday, 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. Tuesday, we typically live stream on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This Tuesday, it will most likely be me and Steven playing something, but it may end up being just a Steven solo stream. That one may happen a little bit later in the afternoon, or normally we start about 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. That'll be closer to 8. We might play some Goat Simulator. We might do some other multiplayer game. We'll play it by ear. Thursday is going to be a Steven solo, so maybe some Devil May Cry. Or
it's going to be Devil May Cry. Come on.
Gotta be some Devil May Cry. Friday, it'll be me live streaming. We're probably going to finish After Party, or at least get through a large chunk of it. I think we can beat it, but we'll see how that goes. And then Saturday, it'll be Steven live streaming on Saturday. So
probably Devil.
Probably more Devil. I mean, you got to play through the whole game at some point. You know what I mean? You might as well just keep going. So anyway, gonna be a lot of good stuff this week, and then of course we'll be back next Monday with more podcast goodness. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.